Walk past any McDonald's in any city on Earth, and you see golden arches, drive-thrus, families grabbing Happy Meals. What you don't see is the invisible empire beneath it, the land itself. The numbers tell a story most people never hear. McDonald's Corporation owns or controls the land and buildings under more than 40,000 restaurants worldwide. Not the franchises, the dirt. This wasn't the original plan. In 1955, when Ray Kroc opened the first franchised McDonald's in Des Plaines, Illinois, he thought he was selling hamburgers. But within 2 years, Kroc was bleeding money. Franchisees paid him a tiny percentage of sales, 1.9%. And it wasn't enough to cover costs. Then a man named Harry Sonneborn walked into Kroc's office and changed everything. Sonneborn was a finance executive, cold and calculating. Sonneborn's pitch was brilliantly simple. McDonald's would stop letting franchisees pick their own locations and own their own land. It was a masterstroke. Overnight, McDonald's transformed from a struggling food franchisor into a real estate development company that happened to sell burgers. Kroc loved it. Here's how the model works. McDonald's real estate division scouts a high-traffic location, a busy intersection, a highway exit, a growing suburb. The franchisee pays rent based on the higher of two numbers, a fixed minimum or a percentage of sales, usually around 8.5%. Meanwhile, McDonald's also charges a franchise fee, 4% of gross sales for the right to use the brand, the menu, the system. McDonald's owns or controls over 40,000 properties worldwide, making it one of the largest real estate holders on the planet. The genius is in the alignment. McDonald's only wins if it picks good locations, so it became obsessive about site selection, traffic counts, demographics, visibility, future growth. And it worked. Ray Kroc later admitted it outright. In his autobiography, he wrote, "We are not technically in the food business. We are in the real estate business." Think about that. The burgers exist to generate rent. The customers, the employees, the supply chain, all of it is infrastructure to extract value from the land. Today, the numbers are staggering. McDonald's Corporation pulls in roughly $9 billion a year from real estate, rents, leases, and property income. That's more than it makes from franchise fees. And it's almost pure profit. Real estate has huge margins compared to food service. A burger chain runs on thin margins, 3 to 5% after costs. But rent? This is why McDonald's can survive, even when burger sales stagnate. In the 2010s, consumer tastes shifted. People wanted healthier food, fast casual chains exploded, McDonald's same-store sales growth slowed. Franchisees pay rent whether customers show up or not. McDonald's holds long-term leases on prime real estate that only appreciates. Consider a single location. A McDonald's in downtown Chicago sits on land worth tens of millions. The franchisee might gross $5 million a year in burger sales. Multiply that by 40,000 locations, and you see the scale. McDonald's isn't just a restaurant empire. It's one of the world's largest commercial landlords, with a property portfolio rivaling sovereign wealth funds. In recent years, McDonald's pulled in $9 billion from real estate alone, dwarfing the $6 billion it earned from franchise fees and royalties. The model has evolved. In recent decades, McDonald's has been selling off some properties and leasing them back, a move called sale-leaseback. But even in those deals, McDonald's retains control. They structure the leases to ensure they can sublease to franchisees at a profit. The company sheds the asset but keeps the income stream. Critics call it rent-seeking, profiting not from creating value, but from controlling a resource. Franchisees, locked into 20-year leases, sometimes find themselves trapped. If sales fall, they still owe rent. The franchisee is now locked in a financial vice. Sales might fluctuate. Costs might spike. But the rent? This is where McDonald's true genius reveals itself. While competitors like Burger King or Wendy's make money only when franchisees succeed, McDonald's profits even when they struggle. Consider the numbers. A typical franchise might generate $3 million in annual sales. But here's the hidden leverage. McDonald's doesn't just collect rent. It also charges franchisees a 4% royalty on gross sales, plus mandatory contributions to national advertising. The franchisee, meanwhile, operates on razor-thin margins. After rent, royalties, food costs, labor, and utilities, many owners net less than 6% profit, and that's in a good year. Yet the lease terms are ironclad, 20 years, non-negotiable. This cycle repeats endlessly. McDonald's churns through franchisees, extracting value from each one, while the real estate itself, the crown jewel, appreciates year after year, decade after decade. By 2008, McDonald's owned outright or held long-term leases on more than 38,000 properties worldwide. The portfolio's value had climbed past $30 billion. McDonald's leases land to franchisees at marked-up rates. Real estate margins exceed food service by 3x. The company profits whether burgers sell or not. Then came the financial crisis. Banks collapsed. Retailers shuttered. Commercial real estate cratered across America. But McDonald's? Their rent checks kept rolling in, month after month, utterly immune to the chaos. Wall Street analysts finally caught on. This wasn't a restaurant company that happened to own real estate. By 2015, analysts estimated that real estate accounted for more than half of McDonald's total operating income. The burgers were just the vehicle. The land was the engine. But this model created a hidden vulnerability. McDonald's had become addicted to rent growth. When same-store sales began to plateau in the 2010s, McDonald's doubled down. They pushed franchisees to remodel, demanding expensive upgrades to digital menu boards, modern decor, table service. Franchisees who balked found their leases suddenly up for review. Some were forced out. Others sold at fire sale prices. McDonald's corporate, as always, benefited, buying low, leasing high. By 2020, the company controlled real estate valued at over $40 billion. That figure dwarfed the market cap of entire restaurant chains. Olive Garden, Chipotle, Subway combined, none came close. The crown jewels of the portfolio sit in places like Times Square, the Champs-Élysées, Tokyo's Ginza district. These aren't just restaurants. They're billboards, brand anchors, and appreciating assets rolled into one. A single flagship McDonald's in a prime urban location can generate $50,000 a month in rent alone, $600,000 a year. Critics began calling McDonald's a landlord that serves fries. Franchisee advocacy groups filed complaints. Some operators publicly accused the company of prioritizing rent extraction over partnership. The company's real estate holdings are worth an estimated $40 billion, more than the GDP of many nations. The company's response was coldly pragmatic. Franchisees are replaceable. Real estate is not. The model even survived the pandemic. While restaurants shuttered and retail landlords slashed rents, McDonald's held firm. Drive-through lanes kept moving, delivery surged, and rent payments never stopped. In fact, McDonald's emerged stronger. While competitors scrambled for survival, the company quietly bought back more franchises, converting struggling locations into company-owned stores, or flipping them at higher rents. Today, the real estate empire stands as one of the most asymmetric profit machines in corporate history. McDonald's wins if stores thrive. McDonald's wins if they fail. The only constant is the rent. But every empire has cracks. And in the shadows of this golden kingdom, a new question looms. What happens when the franchisees finally say enough? By 2015, cracks were showing. Franchisees across America began speaking out, not in whispers, but in lawsuits. They claimed the system was rigged. The complaint was simple. When a McDonald's location thrived, sales climbed, which meant rent climbed. 8.5% of revenue, remember. Meanwhile, market rate rent stayed flat. A strip mall landlord charges fixed monthly rent. Maybe it rises 3% a year with inflation. But McDonald's corporate tied rent to revenue. One California operator told reporters he netted $150,000 a year. Decent money. But McDonald's collected $280,000 in rent from his location alone. And here's the trap within the trap. Franchisees can't just walk away. The 20-year franchise agreement binds them to the land. McDonald's marks up rent by 15% on average, triple the profit margin they make on selling burgers. Some franchisees tried to renegotiate. They pointed to falling foot traffic, rising labor costs, the squeeze of delivery apps taking 30% off the top. But the franchisees had no leverage, because McDonald's wasn't just their landlord. It was their supplier, their brand, their entire business identity. You can't run a McDonald's without McDonald's. Critics called it a monopoly disguised as a partnership. The Federal Trade Commission received complaints. Franchise advocacy groups demanded transparency. But McDonald's had decades of legal precedent on its side. The contracts were ironclad. And here's the genius, or the cruelty, depending where you stand. McDonald's argued it wasn't exploiting franchisees. It was protecting the brand. Prime real estate ensures every location meets standards. The company pointed to its survival rate. 95% of McDonald's franchises stay open past 5 years, far above the restaurant industry average of 50%. The system works, they said, except the definition of winning started to shift. Meanwhile, McDonald's corporate revenue climbed past $23 billion that same year. And here's the split that tells the whole story. Only 40% came from company-operated stores? The other 60%? And then the pandemic hit. 2020 brought lockdowns, labor shortages, supply chain collapse. Franchisees hemorrhaged cash. Dining rooms closed. Drive-thrus became the only lifeline. Some operators begged for rent relief. But corporate stayed profitable, because even when sales dropped, the real estate held value. McDonald's still owned the land. Some locations went dark temporarily. The company just shifted the loss to the franchisee. One analyst described it as the perfect hedge. In good times, McDonald's collects a percentage of booming sales. In bad times, it still holds appreciating property. The franchisee absorbs the downside. Rent income is guaranteed regardless of sales performance. Property appreciates while franchisees absorb operating risk. McDonald's can repossess prime locations if terms are broken. And McDonald's kept doubling down. In 2021, the company spent $1.4 billion buying back more franchise locations, converting them to corporate ownership. By now, the model was clear to anyone paying attention. McDonald's wasn't a restaurant company that happened to own real estate. It was a real estate investment trust that happened to sell burgers. And the returns were staggering. In 2022, McDonald's real estate assets were valued at over $40 billion. That's more than the market cap of companies like Ford or Delta Airlines. Some franchisees fought back. Class action lawsuits claimed McDonald's inflated rent appraisals, steered operators toward overpriced land, buried fees in fine print. A few cases settled quietly. Most were dismissed. The contracts held. Others simply walked away. Veterans with 30 years in the system sold their franchises, cashed out, and warned newcomers. The golden arches are gilded handcuffs. But for every franchisee who quit, 10 more lined up to take their place. Because the brand still held power. The McDonald's name still drew customers. And so the machine hums on. 28,000 properties, billions in rent, a global portfolio that appreciates while franchisees grind. Ray Kroc's vision, perfected and weaponized. But every empire eventually faces a reckoning. The first cracks appeared not in boardrooms, but in kitchens. 2019. Franchise owners in cities across America began speaking out, not about burgers or customer service, but about rent. One operator in Los Angeles told reporters his monthly rent had climbed to $47,000 for a single location. Others reported annual rent increases tied not to market rates, but to their own sales. A brilliant trap. Succeed, and your landlord takes a bigger cut. 28,000 locations. That's how much dirt McDonald's controls across the globe. More land than some small countries. The National Owners Association, a franchisee advocacy group, conducted an internal survey. The results were damning. 71% of operators said rent was their single biggest obstacle to profitability, not competition. Corporate response was swift and cold. A leaked memo reminded franchisees that McDonald's owned the land, set the terms, and could terminate agreements for underperformance. But the scrutiny wasn't just internal. Activists and journalists began pulling back the curtain. Social media exploded with the revelation. Viral posts declared that when you bought a Big Mac, you were really paying a landlord. Then came the lawsuits. The case painted a devastating picture. High crime areas, aging buildings, markets already saturated with competing McDonald's locations. And through it all, the rent never dropped. McDonald's denied the allegations, calling them baseless. but the optics were brutal. Yet even as the controversies mounted, the machine kept humming. Wall Street didn't care about franchise drama or activist tweets. Investors cared about quarterly returns. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when restaurants shuttered and sales cratered, McDonald's stock barely flinched. Why? Because even closed stores paid rent. Franchisees took out emergency loans to cover lease payments. It was the ultimate proof of Sonneborn's vision. Burgers are volatile. Tastes change, trends shift, competitors emerge. But land? Land is forever. And contracts? Contracts are iron. A typical franchisee keeps 15% profit. McDonald's takes 8.5% off the top, just for the land. The landlord eats more than half doubly. Today, the empire spans 14,000 owned properties across 100 countries. Every dawn, somewhere on Earth, a franchisee opens a McDonald's and begins paying rent to Oak Brook. Some analysts argue the model is brilliant, aligning corporate and franchisee success through shared real estate stakes. The truth is probably both. McDonald's created a machine of staggering efficiency, one that turns hamburgers into equity, foot traffic into appreciation, and franchise dreams into rental income. And it shows no signs of slowing. For franchisees, the calculation remains brutal but clear. Yes, the rent is high. Yes, corporate takes the lion's share. But a McDonald's on your resume still opens doors. So the dream persists. Every year, thousands apply for franchises. They sign the leases, take out the loans, and bet their futures on the golden arches. Some will thrive. Many will scrape by. In the end, Ray Kroc was right about one thing. He wasn't in the burger business. And hope, as it turns out, is the most profitable real estate of all. It appreciates forever. It never depreciates. And someone, somewhere, will always be willing to pay rent on it. The empire of fries and leases rolls on. Franchisees flip burgers. Customers line up at the drive-thru. And every month, like clockwork, the rent comes due. Because in the end, the real meal deal was never about the food. It was about the dirt beneath your feet. And that dirt, prime, appreciating, irreplaceable, belongs to McDonald's.